Anthony, thanks for coming up, man.
Pleasure.
Or coming down. Brisbane's down to the Gold Coast, isn't it?
Yeah.
I always get that one wrong.
I'm GC.
Yes, I know.
Live in Brisbane, but my heart is GC. My home is GC.
Born and bred.
Yes.
That's awesome. Weirdly enough, fun fact for anyone listening or viewing, one of Anthony's dance studios was across the ditch from where we're recording right now. And my kids went there, and I actually have a gym next door to it now. So it's become the biggest fitness hub, that little area.
Totally.
It's got everything you can imagine in health and fitness.
And the history of that place is it used to be Varsity Lakes didn't exist.
No.
It used to be Reedy Creek. My dad had a removals company.
Ooh.
Moved into one shed there. It was literally the only shed surrounded by swamp and bush. And then it just started to grow and grow and grow. And the story of my dance school is Dad let me have like 7 by 7 meters of his removals business.
That makes sense why that area has the platform, like lift there. Yep.
And then I just kept saying, Dad, I need more, Dad, I need more, Dad, I need more. Sure enough, I took over in a few years like the entire 500 meters squared warehouse and said, soz, Dad.
That's the way to do it. And now look at you, massive success running the show. And I think this is a complete new platform. You're the very first guest that we've ever had on a Sprout-related podcast, video, interview, whatever you want to call it. But it is an awesome honor. I feel it timing-wise, whether it was fate, whether it wasn't, just off the back of pride and everything that went on during what was a great week. And Sydney really comes to life. I know your partner's down there at the moment during that. Did he attend?
No, he flew back. He's down there for a month work stint down in Sydney. But we've got 2 kids under 2. The youngest one's 3 months old at the moment.
Yeah, wow.
So as much as both of us would have loved to have been partying, having fun and celebrating in Sydney, the reality of parenting kicks in.
Yep.
And he had an opportunity, the only opportunity over the month to fly home for 2 days and see the kids.
Yeah. And
so
you'll definitely take that.
Yeah.
Every day of the week. So, man, tell us a bit about yourself. You have a very unique parenting situation, unique to us in Australia, not so much as unique to people maybe that live overseas, but with Sprout and everything we're doing here and where we're planning to take this small vehicle we have, we'd love to share amazing parents, amazing journeys, and everything along the way of the ups and downs, just to give people a feeling of, one, inclusivity. We are all humans. If you are a parent, you all know how hard it is. Doesn't matter whether you've nailed it one day, then the next day is probably going to kick your ass. So I think it's a great opportunity to share stories and journeys. And this platform, I feel, podcasts and videos, is always the best one to really be able to delve a bit into your life, your partner's life, your kid's life, and how you go about your awesome parenting journey.
Yep. Awesome parenting journey. I love what you said before. You're a great parent one day.
Yeah.
Next
day, not so much.
Parenting kicks you in the ass.
Yeah, it is like that.
I'm feeling that at the moment because he's away. I'm definitely doing the solo. Yeah. But I love it, and I wouldn't change a thing. So my background on the Gold Coast is heavily in dance. Owning dance studios, being a professional dancer myself, and then moved to choreographing a lot of really cool events, both here in Australia and overseas. So really proud of that journey. It was last year that I kind of decided to step away from it, purely because my passion had, the flame had burnt out.
Yep.
I was kind of a bit numb to the excitement of the industry. So I thought it was time to make a change. And during COVID, because my industry was so affected, I couldn't choreograph live events because there was none. I couldn't. My dance school was shut down. My husband and I were living in America at the time. I thought, I'm in this massive lockdown. Why don't I upskill?
Nice.
So I did. I'm sure you've heard of Jay Shetty.
Yeah. The best.
The guru of personal development.
The guru of life.
Friggin' love him.
Yeah.
He launched a coaching certification.
Yep.
And I was attracted to his versus anyone else's because he's all about the life of a monk and meditation and chill and calm. And that isn't necessarily who I am. I'm always thinking if I'm going to train, I want to do something that's not me and learn from someone that I could really benefit from and see changing myself in. So I did his qualification, fell in love with it. I feel like I was coaching or mentoring people most of my life in the dance business, or just a natural inkling with friends coming to me for advice or mentoring or just being there to listen. So it felt quite natural for me to learn that skill. Then I just started really falling in love with that. I was getting booked for keynote speeches. I was loving that as well. Part of it was being able to inspire hundreds of people in a room, but then there's that performance factor as well of being on stage,
of course, yeah,
is in my blood. I love that. I love the adrenaline. I love being nervous. I love that whole experience. So I just thought, you know what, I'm going to open this business. It's going to be coaching and speaking. I named it Ikin Achieve.
Nice.
I just used my surname for bloody everything.
It's definitely in the family blood, the whole being on the big stage and coming through with the clutch. Yeah. For those that don't know, Ben Ikin, who I got to play a small bit of footy with, obviously related, so that's really cool.
Yeah, and he's one of my biggest mentors, I think, or just advisors or inspirations for me to really play big. So I was juggling Ikin Achieve and my dance businesses and choreography until I saw it fit to be able to go all in on Ikin Achieve, which I did in the second half of last year. I've just recently opened my office in New Farm in Brisbane.
Cool.
And my goal is to just really positively impact as many people as possible with their own self-confidence, with their happiness, and just with their fulfillment in life. I feel like it's so needed right now, and it's only going to get more and more and more needed as social media gets bigger, as our attention spans get smaller, as people's head noise gets louder and louder. So I'm loving being in that space.
Very cool.
Separate to career, I'm married to the man of my dreams.
That's awesome.
We got married in New Zealand, but the only reason we chose New Zealand was because when I proposed, it wasn't legal to marry in Australia.
How long ago was that?
We got married in 2018, so I proposed in 2017, and the law didn't change till the end of 2017.
Gotcha.
And the wedding was kind of already planned.
Booked, yep.
And I didn't want to. It felt like I didn't want Australia to decide if I could get married in that country. So I didn't want to wait for that result before marrying the person of my dreams, the man of my dreams.
And the result was, for those that can't remember, I have a really good memory of it because I had a few friends that were on the edge of their seat with it. It wasn't like a foregone, like, this is happening. It wasn't like it was going to be December 31 and the year was going to tick over and it was like, yep, now this is going to occur. So I completely understand just waiting in limbo on an unknown or foregone result would make absolutely no sense as what you said,
So we just chose New Zealand and to move forward regardless of the result. I was there in Sydney at the main parade when the news came through that it was a yes.
Yep.
It was one of the happiest days of both mine and Pete's life. It was really amazing and joyous and magical, and the result it should be. We definitely felt that. But our wedding was a couple of months later in New Zealand, and then both of us have always wanted to be dads. So we embarked on our journey to fatherhood.
Nice. And then had you always known you wanted to be a dad from a young age, or was it something that you grew to develop over time going, I feel like parenting would be just a vibe for me, or has it always been a thing?
It has, but the reality of it is I've always wanted to be a dad, but there's such a blockage because you can't.
Yep.
When you think that is just a natural way forward in life, when you're coming to terms at 16, 17, 18, 19 that you're gay, you almost, back then, this is the late 90s, you write off getting married, you write off being a dad. And that's just the normality that is in conversation, that is everyone's experience at that time. They're the things you have to be able to say goodbye to choose the path that you want. That slowly changed over the years or the decades moving forward. And I'd heard little stories here and there. I remember, it sounds really gay, this story, but I was reading Ricky Martin's book.
Yeah.
And he was a dad through surrogacy in the USA, and he was a single dad. He wasn't partnered at the time. And I wasn't with Pete at this stage, and it inspired me to go, hang on a second, I can actually become a dad, which has been a dream of mine for a very long time. And I don't have to be partnered to do it. I don't have to be married. So it was like this newborn dream was born inside of me that I started to investigate.
Yeah.
And I even went as far as I paid by myself, this is without Pete, I paid the deposit for the surrogacy agency in America. I flew over to Boston and did my sperm deposit, and then I was on the road to becoming a dad without Pete. And then as life has it, I was at a stage in my life where I was under so much financial pressure. I was expanding the business, but the cost of that versus cash flow coming in, I know as any entrepreneur out there, you can relate to just the stresses financially of certain times in your life.
100%.
And the cost of surrogacy is huge in America.
Give people an idea. Just because the term surrogacy is much more normalized over in America, but for here, if I walked next door to chat with the crew that were there, they would have an idea, but they'd have a very limited idea of the process, the cost, the restrictions, the regulatory, everything that goes around it. Give people an idea of that process.
Your cost-wise is the first one I want to make really clear with everyone. It's between if you budget for about $100,000 to $200,000 US per surrogacy, and that is a fuckload of money. That's a lot of money. I totally understand that, but I often say to other people that are thinking about it or wanting to do it or planning for it in the future, I can't think of anything else I would rather spend money on.
For sure.
And when your mindset's there, you find ways to move yourself closer and closer to that hurdle being a reality. And that's what I did.
Well, man, if it's your dream, I mean, you're an entrepreneur. A lot of people listening to this would have started businesses, would have spent a lot of money on different things. If that was your number one priority and dream, I feel it's a cheap.
Yeah.
Like it's like, in terms of, it's a lot of money, but for the end outcome, it isn't. At the same time, for what you get, I would spend that 10 times over to achieve that.
Yeah.
Very fortunate that I didn't have to, just because being lucky in this case, but not everyone is as lucky as what I may be, or what I would say the general population that does end up having kids may be. So I think that level of gratitude can often be lost because, let's face it, if you're heterosexual and you meet a partner and you have a kid and you go through this journey, that's great, but that isn't the reality for everyone. So gratitude to be able to have a easy journey, but then at the same time, I can only imagine how much more gratitude you have within the aspect of what you've been through, because it's definitely not the norm. One of very few people to be able to have that end outcome, but like you and Peter living this amazing life that at one stage you probably thought was never ever going to happen. Oh,
it's not just thought, believed it would never happen, and chose to live the life based off of that belief. And for anyone listening, I would hate for $100,000 US or over that to feel like I don't think that's a huge amount of money. I really do. And I want to make clear that that idea was born in 2010 for me when I was reading that Ricky Martin book. I started the process in 2011. And to make it clear, I put it on pause because of financial pressure and business and the ebbs and flows of all of that. Nash, our first child, wasn't born to 2021.
Wow.
It's a long journey.
It's a long journey.
Yeah. And I put it on pause solo, but like I think the universe was looking out for me, because years later when Pete and I got together, being a dad was so part of who he was. And when we got married, it was always a conversation of, as soon as we're married, let's restart that process, but we're going to do it together. And that's how the idea of our family had started.
The support mechanism you obviously had. It's one thing to do it yourself. That's extremely challenging, obviously.
Yeah.
Having even just someone else believe in the same dream and mission, if you want to call it that, would make just makes it seem achievable. Often you just need someone else, just as the person that, well, you're going in it together now.
Yeah.
So that's like the next step, I guess, of marriage. And in this case, you guys were really fortunate to be able to get to the same outcome.
Yeah.
Was Pete therefore involved just equally the same in the process in regards to how it works from there? Because again, I clearly haven't done it before, but always interested in whether it's a process that's led by one, or is it a case of, as you alluded to before, it was your sperm. Does that give you you guys go back and forth on things, on decisions and discussions about how it all works from there, just as an equal thing, or just a bit of insight into how that process would work? So
and it's quite scientific, but incredible what they can do these days. So, and I'll try and keep it as simple as possible. Half of what they were telling us they can do, I didn't understand because it's medical terms. So I had already done my sperm deposit those years before, and that was frozen, and then we could use that. Pete did a sperm deposit when we started as well, and the first type of pregnancy we were going for was a twin pregnancy with one surrogate, with an embryo created from my sperm and one from his sperm in the same pregnancy.
Yeah, wow. Twins. I'll be completely honest.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was possible.
Yes. And one of the reasons we chose America and specifically California is because they have advancements in this area of science. And we thought, if it's hugely expensive, we just want to make sure we're giving this the best shot possible. And so where we chose a fertility clinic in California, and that fertility clinic invented IVF years and years before. So we knew we were in good hands. They gave us a lot of warning about this kind of twin pregnancy and the embryos that we created being high risk. There was, I think it was 87% chance that one embryo would take, and it was a 50-50 chance that the second embryo would take. Both embryos took for us, so we were on such a high. It was very beautiful moment. But we ended up losing one of them about 9 or 10 weeks into the process.
Yeah.
With this kind of embryo creation, we knew the sexes as well before they were even put into the surrogate.
Yeah, wow.
Before that even happened. So we knew one was a boy, one was a girl. We knew we lost the girl, so we could figure out who was. Yeah, we figure out whose it was that was left from a sperm scenario. And then that was devastating, losing one. I really, my heart goes out to everyone that's been through that process. And we were devastated, but then we were very grateful that we still had one left in that pregnancy.
Yep.
Turned out being our first child, Nash.
Yep.
He was born in Salt Lake City in Utah, and we were living in America at the time.
Yeah. Is that because the surrogate lived there, or was that by choice, or is that by... I won the green card lottery. Have you heard of that? I have. A mate of mine did ages ago. Yeah.
I won the green card lotto. So Pete and I were married. We wanted kids down the track, but not right now. Pete's a TV producer, and I was a choreographer at that time, and I just started keynote speaking and stuff. So we thought, imagine what we could do in America. Moved to America, and it was November. I think COVID started in February, We're in lockdown by March.
Yeah.
So everything I was doing work-wise shut down.
Yeah.
But Pete, because of him being in California, TV was actually one of those jobs.
They kept going, yeah.
And he did amazing things. He was working on Vanderpump Rules, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills.
Oh, cool.
He was doing America's Got Talent, Dancing with the Stars. Just dream stuff for him. So happy he got to live out that part of his career over there. We decided to start the surrogacy journey for Nash because of COVID as well. I was sitting at home going, there's no reason we can't start this journey right now. So we did. Yep. And then through that experience, we were still living there. We were there when Nash was born. And then we thought it was America, as much as I love it in its good times, it was a hot mess at this time. So there was COVID. It was Trump versus Biden. It was Black Lives Matter movement. It was the energy in that country felt toxic.
Yeah.
And we wanted out. And I say that with such a love for so many people over there, but it was just the country was so divided.
Yeah, it looked on fire
and
from here.
You could feel it.
Yeah.
You could feel it. So we just, especially after having Nash, we wanted out. So we moved our lives back to Australia and quite quickly thought, we've got these embryos on ice over there. Our surrogate, the same surrogate that gave birth to Nash. And just for anyone listening, the surrogate and the egg donor are two completely different people. Yep. The surrogate carries the embryo, and they do that on purpose over there so that the surrogate doesn't get as emotionally attached to that child. So our surrogate had agreed to do another one for us pretty soon after. She gave birth to Nash, so we were like, okay, let's go. And then we started that process, and we just did one embryo transfer, and that was Betty, and it was our daughter who's 3 months old today. But that process, that journey was a lot more successful, a lot less hurdles, and we knew about the process. We weren't learning as we were going. Yeah. So we stayed in Australia. We did FaceTime for all of the key appointments and things like that. We flew over. We arrived, I think it was 5 days before she was born. And I was in the same hospital, same surrogate, similar doctors. Yeah. Had Betty, and then we came home.
And how's the relationship with the surrogate? Obviously, I imagine clearly there's a screening process in terms of how that occurs, but is it just a case of a really, really different form of an interview where you're meeting this person going, this person is going to hold my child for the 9-month window?
Yeah.
Is it a selection process? Is it
yes.
And with that selection process, is it just you going off the aspect of I vibe with this person, or you're looking at history of any illnesses and genetics and I have no idea. The list could go on forever, but is it, how did you guys come to that decision?
So we, most people in America, you go with an agency that does everything for you or hold your hand during the entire process, or layman terms, everything that you don't understand.
Yep.
We chose an agency in LA called Same Love Surrogacy. They specialize in same-sex parents. That just felt right for us. So they helped guide us through everything. First of all, with choosing the embryos, probably even more difficult than, or the egg donor, sorry.
Yeah.
Choosing the egg donor was the hardest part, because you get given a bank of hundreds of people, and then you have to, I think you get down to your top 4 and you can have Skype calls with them. But you do get 3 generations of their health history. They can't become egg donors unless they're of a certain level of health. So you know that the health-wise, you've got a good start there. But then as humans, you start to, I mean this with all respect, but it becomes like bloody Tinder days and things like that, where you're looking at people and what scores they got in high school and their everything, their hobbies, are they similar to yours, the foods they like, all of that kind of stuff. So you get caught up in this web of just wanting the best possible egg donor. So we ended up choosing our egg donor. We're on the same page. Peter and I kind of narrowed it down separately, and we're very much on the same page there of who we went with in the end. And then choosing the surrogate, our agency recommended this surrogate in Utah. America, state by state, is different laws everywhere. Mm-hmm. And Utah had good laws towards surrogacy. Simple things like it meant that Pete and my name were on the birth certificate.
And that's not the case in other states.
No. And you would just think these things would be a no-brainer. Of course you're going to be the parents, of course you are, but you can only imagine over there with different laws, different governors, different religions, what that looks like. Utah ticked a lot of our boxes, and those things meant that we definitely wanted to do this in Utah. The surrogate, lovely girl, we're on a WhatsApp group all the time. We check in all the time. She's married. She's got an own kid of her. They've got a child themselves. And it just felt like the right fit. She's a Mormon. And to us, we're like, I don't even know if they're allowed to do this and things like that. But I think of being completely truthful, one of the things about her wanting to do it and her being a Mormon, we're like, she's a good girl.
Yeah, well, makes sense. It definitely made sense. I was actually that was going to be my question in terms of what do you think drives someone to donate their eggs? Do you think it's more of an aspect of they want to give someone an opportunity? Is it a caring thing? Is it, I have no idea because I'm not the person that would obviously donate an egg in that space, but what did you find in terms of when you got to know her or anyone else that was in that space, what their main reasons were for wanting to help and do what they do?
So the egg donor, I think it's a combination of, sure, there's a give back and to families that can't necessarily do it, but it's also a financial benefit to them.
Yep.
So of that, say 100 to 100 plus K, the egg donor gets from somewhere between 10 and 20K.
Yeah, okay.
Within that.
Yep.
And you hear lots of beautiful stories of that pays their university for their university degree. With the surrogate, and I'm not saying it's all about money, it can be a combination, but that certainly helps. And I totally understand that. If that can go towards their future and their studies and their career they want to build, totally get it. Surrogate, definitely an area of giving back and being able to help families that really need it. The surrogate gets about 40 to 60K of that amount. Completely deserved. I think that is just spectacular what they have to do for that time. Our surrogate, between our first and second child, they use that money for a deposit on a house. That makes us so happy to see that that's the difference that it can make to their life because of the difference that they made to ours.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, if anyone to say that things aren't transactional, you're lying to yourself. In the aspect of the transaction here is they made you guys the happiest people that ever could be, and vice versa. You going through that process gave them a life that they otherwise may not be able to achieve just from straight hard work. That's a lot of money to get to be able to go towards something that they've probably really wanted for a significant period of time. So it is great to hear of win-win stories because often you hear of someone winning and someone losing, but anytime you hear of two people getting a great outcome and result, that I mean, that makes me happy. I'm sure it makes a lot of other people, including yourself, happy within that.
Totally. And it's one of the effed up things about Australian law. There can be no financial contribution to the surrogate legally here in Australia.
There you go.
Not 1 cent.
So, and clearly, I'm guessing, and I don't know, but I'm guessing that's one of the major reasons why it is so restrictive here, that it's not, why you go to America to do it, or why you hear of anyone else doing things in other parts of the world rather than doing it here, because it's quite quite hard. If there can be no financial exchange, at the end of the day, that puts a halt on things pretty quickly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we obviously, because it's so expensive, we looked at options of doing it here in Australia, but we kept going back to America seemed like it was more advanced in that area medically.
Yep.
To give us more of a chance of this way of parenting being a success. And then we want the surrogate or the egg donor, we want to be able to financially, positively impact their life in some way. That is something special we can do for them because of how amazing the thing is that they're doing for us. Yep. But for that, and I might be offending some people at this, or if anyone's gone through the journey in Australia, I say this with no offense, but I just feel like I don't understand why we are where we're at in Australia with these rules in place. And it is really holding back a lot of beautiful families.
Yeah.
It is really not allowing so many same-sex couples right now to be able to have a family and make the beautiful parents that they actually destined to be, or they know they can be.
Not even just same sex, just parents in general.
Yeah.
Like that at the end of the day, like for one reason or another, and I know a lot of people in this situation, having a kid sometimes is really easy for some. For me, it was like I honestly had to go get the snip because I knew that I would just keep having kids. Just fertility of Africans, I think, is right up there.
Yeah.
But for others, that doesn't happen. So giving people an opportunity to live their dream, to, as you guys are extremely happy, like I don't know why, as you've said, that would be removed in some way, or a huge barrier or fence put in the road to let that happen in any aspect. It does seem backwards. A lot of things seem backwards though when I look at some of the laws. So in due time, I'm hoping we'll get smarter. But I guess we can only hope. But on the parenting aspect, tell us. So clearly, I'm sure people have worked out by now you're a gay dad. That comes with probably things I have absolutely no idea about that I would love for you to shed some light on, talk about your journey so far to date. Clearly, I can only imagine what it's like in the aspect of, for those that can see, I'm black, my wife Jen's white, so our kids that sit right in between. And even in that aspect, sometimes I still get looks like, oh, is that their kid? Is that her kid? Usually more so on her end because the kids are still probably more dominant towards me. But I can only imagine if I get a look like that as a straight dad, 2 kids, boys that are boisterous, I can only imagine some of the looks or things that would come your way. But clearly it doesn't deter you in any way in terms of being the best parent that you can be, and obviously doing an amazing job. Tell us what the journey's been like so far.
Journey's been great. The hardest thing is just being a parent. That's probably the hardest part of it all. There's so many systems that can be updated and improved. I mean, even for us, just the journey of our kids are born in America, so they have American birth certificates, but to get Australian citizenship is a journey of its own.
I didn't think of that.
Even things like, you just imagine in certain forms that we're filling out, when you have to write down the mother and the father, there's not even an option in some of these forms that it's not a male and a female in the parenting journey. And that blows my mind. Even just recently, the trying to get the Centrelink kickback of like the dad pay or something like that. It's
that would be the hardest.
Yeah.
Dealing with places like Centrelink that are the hardest to deal with just to begin with, let alone in your situation.
Yeah. And ringing them up, which is a nightmare itself. But then trying to explain, but there's 2 dads, and the amount of stops that are just there because it's not even the people on the phone. They're lovely and they get it and they want to help, but the system isn't even built for it.
Yeah,
there's not even a drop down option. So there's like a pushback from an algorithm sense that's you can't even process certain claims. So I feel like that's one area of life that Australia really needs to make advancements in.
Yeah.
And even these days, even in the gender realm, there's a whole nother chat with somebody else, but just now it's just male or female. And I know there's a lot of non-identifying humans out there at the moment. We need to look at that because that is another area of life that we've evolved to get to, and we need to look at where we can make improvements there, because if we're all for equality, we've got to remember what equality is.
It's an easy word to say, isn't it?
Oh.
It's an easy word to just roll off the tongue.
Yeah.
It's an easy word. Like we refer to equality, but we refer to inclusivity in that. And everyone, when you ask them, just generally point blank, whether you feel like you're a person that promotes equality or are you an inclusive person, like everyone says yes. Doesn't matter who you ask. Then you ask like certain questions and they're like, nah.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, doesn't that answer the fact that you probably aren't? Like you aren't actually looking at the full picture. Like if everyone truly is equal, then there should be no barriers or no's and I get it. Sometimes as a civilization or humanity, we haven't got to the point we think we're at, no different to slave ship was at this point, and then we evolve. But there's certain things that I feel we're evolving probably too slow. Like it feels like surely by now we're shooting, like Tesla's shooting something to the moon, and yet we can't do a form on Centrelink to say
two dads.
Yeah, like that's a roadblock. But we'll create like what we were talking about, AI, where we'll be going, well, I need to do a blog on this, and robots will work out exactly what we're trying to say, but we can't get the forms right, or we can't do some basics. So I can only imagine what that will be like. What kind of future do you hope for your kids? I know that me personally, the funniest part about when I was having found out I was going to be a dad was never the fear of me being a dad. Is always been my biggest fear is the world that they'll be brought into. Yeah. And I've always said, from my background and my parents, very fortunate that they're both African. Obviously, I'm African, was born here, but I was given all the attributes of people that had hustled from Africa for 35, 40 years and was born into this ridiculously great society. So I got the best of both. And my childhood and everything was absolutely great. But then you can see where we are right now as a society, and you guys have experienced it more than anyone. And when I found out I was going to have a kid, my natural instinct was fear. Like, in all honesty, of what will this be like for them, and how will I navigate it? I don't have the answer still, but what do you hope for your kids? And obviously they're going to go on, let's not beat around the bush, their journey is going to be hard. It's not going to be the standard journey that a kid would otherwise go for, but that makes some of the world's best people obviously going through unique and challenging journeys. So I imagine you have a path that you hope for, whether it happens or not. Time will tell, I guess.
I know parenting's magical, but I don't know if this is my experience. There's something extra magical when you have to go through such a hard, difficult journey to get there from such a young age. When you write parenting off because you choose to be gay, when you hear of other people's journeys, when you figure out the costs and you're like, how the hell am I going to do that? And then you do it and you go through this journey of like the science-based thing in America and using surrogates and transfers and embryos, and then all of a sudden you're holding this child in your... It's incredible. It's incredible. And I don't know if it's just my personality type, but fear was not there for me. Yeah. It was miracle. And I still feel that. I still see them every day and go, this is a miracle. I never thought this life was possible. And having been bullied so heavily, having had so much hate sprayed on me for such a young age because purely I just loved to dance or loved different things, and I was hated for that. And having learnt resilience and those experiences making me the human I am today, I wouldn't change a thing about what I went through growing up, because my skin's a lot thicker than most.
Yeah.
And when people tell me no, it's a different kind of reaction that I have based on my upbringing. So I'm very grateful for how I was brought up and all the experiences that I went through. So this is another phase of that for me. It's like these miracles that are our family, they're going to have these tough times. That's going to make them the most successful. And I mean success in a way of whatever success looks like for you. It doesn't mean $1 billion and a mansion and all of that. It's like whatever success is for you, they're going to have the most successful life because of those pushbacks, those adversities, those moments, those side looks, those whispers behind your back, the gossip, whatever it is. They're going to be the most resilient people because of that. And that excites me.
Man, what an answer. That doesn't get any better as an answer. That's goosebumps worthy. That's...
It really, and you know, I can already see it. Our little one, Nash, Betty's pretty much just having bottles and feeding at the moment. So...
yeah.
Nash, I can already see a resilience at kinder. Drop him there, he's 2. He turns 2 in like a few weeks. And he's just running around with this confidence and this like resilience that I feel like is an energy in him because of us. He's taken that on, and I see the little boy he's becoming, the little man he'll become. I see that already. And that really excites me. It breaks my heart to know the hurt he's going to go through, but that's every kid, right?
Yeah, in some way, in some format.
Yep.
And what you said, like I was thinking, because I've been asked the question quite a lot in the aspect of a lot of my kids don't have kids. And when people ask like, what do you hope for to impart from yourself to them more than anything? Without a doubt, the first thing that jumps to, like, it's not even a second guess, is resilience. It's the first thing that comes through, and they're like, oh, is it because of, like, you have to be resilient in business? And I'm like, forget that. Like that's one small aspect. It's the aspect of you have to be resilient just to get through life, just as a whole. Like I don't, and like you alluded to, success can come in multiple forms. Everyone wants success, everyone wants happiness, but none of those things will exist if you're not resilient. Because in some format, you're going to face some adversity. Some for others, it's less. Some for others, it's more. In your case, it was a shitload more than I haven't known you long, but it was going to be a whole lot more than me. And for me, it was going to be a whole lot more than others just because of who I am. And for others, it's going to be more again within that. So everyone's path is different, but your kid's path, and basically everything I took from what you were saying was just the aspect of, one, because of the gift you've been given, there's absolutely no chance you would take being a dad for granted. And I know a lot of people that take being it for granted. Just the aspect of, well, I had a kid and I can have another kid and I can have another kid, and like it's so it's like kind of become just a thing. Like it's like I won't say chore, but it's a thing that is just like, well, it's not that special. Like the way you look at it compared to how someone else will look at it. So you combine both those aspects, and you combine the aspect of, as you said, you hate for your kid to see any type of pain or suffering, but you also know the outcome that getting past that pain and suffering, what that can lead to. Can lead to amazing journeys, amazing miracles, as you put it, amazing life, and just an amazing life. So it's really cool that you look at it on that side of the pond, because it's very easy to look at it from the negative side as well, which you would hate to look at it from there, but that's also natural.
I have those days.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Most of the time, it's looking at it from a positive side, but you can get defeated and down and out, and things can happen in life. And I definitely get into the woe is me kind of headspace, not for too long, but I'm human.
Yeah, exactly, man. For those parents, I guess, particularly 3-month-old, and how old is Nash? 2?
2, about to turn 2, yeah.
So you got them close together.
Yeah.
You're right in the thick of it. I think I've got like almost like the perfect gap of 8 and 4, but my 4-year-old is proper psychopath. Like just too strong, too much testosterone, too much everything. Like just too much everything. Like he's been given like, I don't know. He's just been given all this super juice from like some young age. So he's out of control, and his brother is so caring, gentle, nice, does his best to look after him, but then gets flipped on his head just trying to do the nice thing. And sometimes I sit there going, I've got no idea what I'm even doing. Like I've got absolutely no idea what I'm doing. But then there's certain times I think, oh, maybe I got it right. Like there's just those moments for you, and like giving any advice to parents, particularly parents doing it tough. And I guess you will have a unique insight into what your form of tough is. How do you get yourself through those, what you deem tough days, tough weeks, sometimes tough months? You never know how long it's going to go for sometimes.
I'm in a tough spell at the moment of my husband's down in Sydney filming a TV show down there, so he's a few weeks away, and it's just me and the 2 kids. So I'm solo parenting. I get mum to help on Mondays. Pretty much it's just me and them. Some days I find quite manageable. I definitely didn't say easy there, but manageable, and other days it's just a shit show. And I think I kind of, at the moment, am just going day by day. I know my kids respond best to routine and structure. And I try and just stick with a really simple version of life for us as a family right now, whilst Pete's away. But my saving graces are just making sure you also have time to check yourself out. Like when those kids go down at 6:30 at night and you get that window of a couple of hours, I try my best not to just be on emails and other things that can wind you up.
Yeah.
You need to have that checkout time. Whatever your checkout time is, whatever it looks like to you. For me at the moment, it's the show Yellowstone.
Oh,
so
how good is it?
But I just love, and the reason I love that is I don't think about anything else while that show is on. Yeah. It's on the couch, they're asleep, and it's just me and that show. And I feel like that really helps me for the next day. If I was just to go straight to emails and replying to messages and doing all of that, or quickly getting the kids' stuff ready for the next day right then, I feel like I'd go into the next day wound up. But I think what really helps me is just switching off and having that selfish checkout time.
It's good. I need to do that. Because I did exactly what you would refer to, where I'm just like, I have to get the kids down, do the things and all that type of stuff. But like you said, I'm just like on this clock, and I like to train in the morning because I have to do it before they wake up, because once they're up, it's their time. I don't want to take away from their time. So I almost do what feels like their day, like you said, wound up, and then you just go, and the cycle continues and continues without really getting the mental break, the mental break from it all.
And that's burnout. You do that for months and months and months. Yeah. That's burnout. And burnout's a real thing. It's not just a made-up situation. It's a real thing. Yeah. So I just, for anyone, even if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, those Yellowstone episodes like an hour long, so I get that's a long time. Yeah. People might not have that. Whatever it is, just have that time to just switch off and make your soul smile a little bit.
What season you up to?
The latest. But I'm up to episode. I've got 6, 7, and 8 to go before the season break.
Yeah.
And I just love it. The reason I'm watching it now is because Pete and I watch everything together. For whatever reason, he'll tell you a different story. I started watching this show without him, which is a huge almost divorce moment in our relationship. So I've watched all the seasons of Yellowstone without him. So now that he's away, I can watch this season.
Yeah.
And I'm bloody loving it.
Oh, man. It is, for those that haven't watched it, it is one of, I feel, one of my favourite shows that's ever been on TV.
That and Succession. Do you watch Succession?
I haven't seen that.
Oh, my God.
What's that on?
I actually don't know. We've got all of them.
Yeah.
So I don't actually know.
Yeah, no, the platform is just there. You turn on the TV, it's there.
Oh, and I see the bills coming out every month, and it's like, it's just as much as what bloody Foxtel was when it was $120.
Yeah.
Now you have all the platforms. But if you like Yellowstone, you will love Succession.
Oh, that's me.
Yeah.
I'll Google it. I'll find out.
Yeah.
I'll find out where to get that. The only time I get to watch anything is, generally speaking, I have to travel for work. And then it's like you do the whole day of meeting. And you're so used to going home to put your kids to bed and get homework and clean and all the normal.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, I don't have to do that. So now I have an hour and a half, 2 hours free to do something.
Yeah.
It almost feels like you get a bit jittery. Feel a bit nervous, like you're doing something wrong, like in that space. But we'll take note of what you said and put that into implementation. But Ben, thank you so much for dropping in.
My pleasure.
I know your daughter is with a friend at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm sure she's awake by now.
She's ready for cuddles.
Yeah. So I won't keep you too much longer. But again, thank you so much. Thanks for being our first guest. And giving just, I feel, another great look and insight into what parenthood is, because it's very different for everyone. I like to think that whilst different for everyone, we share a common bond that we can impart wisdom each which way. And it's often, as I was trying to say at the start, a situation where people think one parenting is right, one journey is this is how you feed, this is the routine set, this is all these different things, and none of it's right. Everyone's got their own way of finding their own best balance and going on this crazy journey as best we all can.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks again, man. Appreciate it.
My absolute pleasure. And if anyone listening wants to ask more questions, I'm an open book for surrogacy questions.
Yeah, cool.
For anyone's home.
How can they get in touch? What would be the best way?
Just my Instagram is @AnthonyIkin.
Yep.
And I just love giving any knowledge I have or any insight I have to that whole world of parenting. So I'm always there. Yeah,
cool. Reach out for anyone that I definitely learnt a lot. I personally have had the snip, so I'm not having more kids. But for anyone that is in a similar position that is just looking to have kids, and it may not be as simple, I couldn't recommend more than reaching out to someone that's knowledgeable, that's gone through the process themselves.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Thank you.